Do we want to do tagliatelle? Thin. So today we're making what I like to call Sunday sauce. And it's not like the Sunday sauce in New York or kind of Italian-American cooking, which is lots of slow cooked meats and tomato sauce. It's just tomato sauce. I make it every Sunday with my partner, and it kind of fluctuates depending on how we feel. We sometimes put anchovies in it, we sometimes don't, we sometimes put chili in it, sometimes we don't. I'm gonna show you today a very basic Sunday sauce, and then you can do what you like with it. We're gonna make the pasta, we're gonna make the sauce, we're gonna make a nice little breadcrumb for the top. It's lovely, lovely cooking. It's like a classic pomodoro, which is just like a tomato sauce, but done properly, it's an absolutely perfect plate of food. And I don't think there's anything that's quite as comforting as the Sunday sauce I'm about to make. I'm gonna show you how to make some tagliolini with just eggs and 00 flour. So this is a really, really fine milled flour. It's as fine as it gets. It's a really strong flour. It's got lots of gluten in it, or proteins in it. Gives you a really smooth pasta dough and a very strong pasta dough. So you can roll it and roll it, roll it, and it's stretchy and chewy and delicious. Definitely don't use plain flour because your pasta will be shit. 2 ingredients, flour and eggs. You don't need to put in any olive oil or any salt or any water. I've seen people put milk in pasta dough as well before, which is incorrect. You don't need any milk. Keep it simple, eggs and flour. And we're gonna use a combination of whole eggs and egg yolks. The whole eggs are, one, cheaper, you kind of get more for your money. The protein in the egg white's really good, and it helps, again, get a really nice chewy, stretchy, strong pasta dough. And then the yolks are there to give it a lovely color and a lovely richness. So we're gonna use a combination of both. It's a really easy recipe to remember. 500 grams of flour, 150 grams of whole eggs, which is about 3, and then 100 grams of yolks. I'm using this machine instead of using, you can do this where you dump the flour out and then make a little well and add your eggs, and that's fine. And it really works really well, but I like using this because it's really, really fast. You'll see once we blend it, it's really, really fast. We're still gonna knead it for a long time and work it. Keeps everything contained, clean, easy, smart. Work smart, not hard. Use a blender. 150 grams of whole eggs, Rollo. We're gonna need 3 eggs here. So when I'm separating eggs, I don't faff around with the 2 shells, passing it between. I just crack them all into a bowl. 1, 3, 5. Your hands to just scoop out the yolks, because shells are still kind of like jagged and kind of sharp, and they're probably gonna pop the yolk. But this, nice clean hands, go straight in, lift the yolk out, and you'll see these are nice fresh eggs, so the white wants to hang onto that yolk. But that's it, done. Straight in here, 15 grams, 16 grams. These are quite small, but the color's beautiful, isn't it? Lovely. It's gonna give us color, it's gonna give us nice richness. So now we've got to get the eggs into the flour, and I'm gonna do it while the machine is running, because then I get a nice even dispersion of the eggs. If I was to dump them in and then blend them, it would probably work, but we like to do things properly here. Woo! Looks like breadcrumbs. If you do this with a fork, like the nonnas in Italy, and you do it in the middle, and what am I talking about? Make the volcano and put the eggs in, and then like beat it and beat it and beat it. It does work, obviously, they've been doing it for centuries, but this is really, really easy when you're doing it at home. I mean, look at this. Come get a look at this. It's like breadcrumbs, and if you squeeze it together like this, see how loose it is like that? And you go, ugh, dough. Pretty good, right? Pretty good. You kind of do that and it's like sand. Dough. Dun, da, da, da. We're gonna knead it for a while, and then we're gonna wrap it up and let it rest. It's gonna feel quite dry, but don't panic. You don't want it to be too wet. I feel like that's probably like the main mistake people make when they're making pasta dough at home, is that they make the dough too wet, and then when you roll the pasta, it gets all sticky and you've got loads of flour on it, and it becomes messy and tricky. What you want is a dough that's quite dry. And I think when we roll this out, you'll see that I don't use any flour, because if you get they call it hydration. If you get the hydration right now, your future self will be very happy, and it makes everything very easy. So this is, well, it doesn't look done. And if you were, some of my Italian friends or chefs or make Italian food would look at this and go, Ben, you're insane. This is not ready. But we're making this at home and we're gonna cheat it a little bit and we're gonna rest it and roll it and rest it. And it's gonna go really smooth. You'll see, this works. Stick with me. Right, breadcrumbs. So we're gonna make a little crunchy topping for our pasta, which is something that they usually do at restaurants, and it's what makes a nice bowl of pasta really nice, because it gives you some crunch. So this has been sitting in my flat for a few days, so it's a little bit tough. So we're not gonna chop them up or pick them or anything, we're just gonna scatter them in, smash them. Because again, we're not gonna like chop these through or make them too small because they'll just burn in the oven. What we want is for these to just perfume everything nicely. All right, don't peel them or do nothing. Just gonna season it with salt and a little bit of black pepper, and then just toss it all through, get everything coated. So this oven is sitting at about 180, and we're just gonna go pop it in, close the door. And that'll take maybe 15 minutes. Let's talk a bit about these, shall we? Yeah? You want to get really, really nice tomatoes. When you're making anything that has, this is 5 ingredients, anything with very few ingredients, you want to make sure you're buying the best you can afford, because it's going to show, right? I mean, if you get a real shit can of tomatoes, cook it with a bit of garlic, it's going to taste not as good as if you buy a really nice one. And this is a really nice one. They're called Mutti. They're really fresh and very sweet. Sometimes when people make tomato sauce, you see them putting sugar in it. If you buy nice tomatoes, you don't need the sugar. It's because cheaper ones are usually more acidic. I like to cut them into nice, like long slivers, like that. So that is all of the prep for Sunday sauce. The sauce itself. We obviously make the pasta with it. Just chopped garlic, that's it. So we're gonna go to the pan. I'm just gonna add what looks like a lot of olive oil. And that's because it is. You want a lot. Really, really nice amount. See that? What is that? How many tablespoons? Maybe like 4 or 5 tablespoons of olive oil. Let that get nice and warm. It smells beautiful. It just smells like the garlic's just warming up. It's like in a little jacuzzi. It's not hard frying. You want to start this slowly and just bring it up, bring it up, bring it up. Because the goal here is to get the flavor out of the garlic and into the oil. If you don't want to kind of like lock it in and fry it or whatever. So low and slow is the game. Garlic, the smell of the garlic is starting to change. It's going from raw to kind of like toasty, and it smells warm. That's how I know that it's basically done. All of the little slivers are starting to stick together as well. If I swirl the pan, they're starting to clump up. So that's all the sugar coming out of the garlic, and they start to get quite sticky. So this is just about perfect. If you find that it's going too quick, and the outside of the sliver is like, it's caramelizing too fast, just add a bit more oil, and the cold oil will bring the temperature down, slow everything down. This is looking pretty perfect. So add some salt and a little bit of pepper. This has been cooking for about maybe 10 minutes, and it's reduced beautifully. If you come and look at this, Rollo, if I draw the spoon through the, I should turn this off a sec, it's not bubbling. If I draw the spoon through the sauce, you can see the bottom, right? It's quite thick. This is what we want. We probably want to go a little bit thicker, but you can see that the oil is stained red, garlic's all soft, this is reduced nicely. We're nearly there. I think a few more minutes and we'll be done. So we can start rolling some pasta. Oh yeah, so these look beautiful. Lovely golden brown. Ow, they're very hot. Beautiful golden brown. So we're just gonna chuck in the bread. See the color? It's all, there's a few little lighter spots in there, that's quite nice. So what we have is a delicious little, it's kind of like pan grattata, but we don't make it in a pan. So it's been about half an hour of this hanging out, and it has completely changed. It's a little bit softer. And if I unwrap this, you should always keep this cling film and reuse it to wrap your pasta up. Much smoother. The color is more even, but it's still got some cracks and little craggly bits. We want to make it really, really smooth. And we're going to do that using this, okay? Cut it in half to make this a similar thickness, otherwise you work your pasta machine really, really hard and it doesn't last very long. It's the right hydration. We weighed our eggs out, we were quite precise. And now I don't need any flour. It's not sticky, it's not gonna stick to this. Thin enough to go into the widest setting here. So now I'm just gonna start feeding it in. So I have to be careful because this isn't actually attached to my bench. Folding it up and just keep going, keep going, keep going. By folding it in half, and then that fills in that gap there. Then we fold it in half again, like that. Together. Now I've rolled that through. See how much more uniform that is, right? And there's no flour. I'm not chucking flour anywhere. This is quite a dry dough. You could probably get away with it being a little bit wetter, so maybe one more egg yolk or a little bit of extra white, but for today, this is perfect. Beautiful. Is a lovely sheet of pasta that is not too thin. I've stopped on, this is the third from the bottom, because basically this is my cutter, and I'm going to use this one. And I want the pasta to be as thick as it is being cut wide, if that makes sense. So I want it to be like a square. And if I look at the teeth of this, they're about that far apart. Does that make sense? I think that's probably a mistake that people make, is when they're rolling pasta at home, they try and roll it too thin. When you want your pasta to have some bite, if you grab like a dried spaghetti, it's not like wafer thin, it's like a little circle, right? Or like a tagliatelle. It's still got some bite to it, so don't roll it too thin, otherwise your pasta will be limp and rubbish. Beauty. See that? Lovely, homemade pasta. So this is tagliolini. It's like a very, very thin tagliatelle, but it's one of my favorites to make at home. I love this stuff. Tagliolini, delicious. Cool, so repeat that with the other bits and we're done. So this is a big pot, so we need all of that. It's gonna go straight in. Good helping of water. I like to keep the leaves whole as well. Big bites of basil. Cool. We're just marrying the pasta and the sauce. If you do this on the heat, it can get really stringy. If you cook Parmesan, if it hits the bottom of a hot pan, it will basically go really stringy, which is not what you want. Just gonna go in with all the basil. Sprinkle of our breadcrumbs. Lovely olive oil here. This is not one you cook with, you just want to finish with it. And then It's my favorite plate of food in the world. It's called Sunday sauce. Tomato pasta, tagliolini, crunchy breadcrumbs, fresh basil. It's absolutely delicious. Comforting every single time. Have this on a Sunday night, you won't be sorry. So you can see the pasta is clinging to the sauce. It all has this beautiful togetherness. And it's sweet, but we didn't add any sugar. We brought the sugar out of the garlic, out of the tomatoes, slowly confit it down in that lovely olive oil. Basil has a beautiful sweetness. Beautiful. Pasta's chewy, delicious. And it's not overcooked, it's still kind of holding its own. And then there's some crunchy breadcrumbs on top. You can't beat it. Delightful. Ooh.